Hey guys, Logan from Popular Woodworking Magazine. So in woodworking, we have a bunch of different joints that we can work with. Some are fancy, like dovetails, and some, like butt joints, are pretty simple and straightforward. But there's one joint that I've really liked to use in my shop lately, and I used it on a recent Popular Woodworking Magazine project. That was this drawer that is from the Sawtill in a couple issues back. Now, this looks like a butt joint, but it's actually a dowel joint. And dowel joints kind of get a bad rap, but I think that's for the wrong reasons. When they're used right, they're a great joint. They're fast to make, and it's a great, simple connection. So today I'm going to show you how to make this drawer using a dowel joint, and we're going to use this tool from Milescraft called the JointMaster. Now this is a doweling jig. It's a little bit different than other doweling jigs though. So this is kind of the style of doweling jig that I grew up using, and they work okay. But the problem I have with them is they are a self-centering style doweling jig, so you're really limited on where you can drill holes and where you can use them. Because if I put this on the end of a board, I have no way to make a right angle because I can't clamp this on the face of a board. So this JointMaster is one of several doweling jigs that Milescraft has, and I like this one for a couple of different features. So before we get into this drawer build, let me walk you through those. So first, this looks more like a pocket hole jig than it does a doweling jig, and I like that because you can configure this for a bunch of different orientations. Everything is metal, and everything's held together with screws, so you can kind of reconfigure this and flip the orientation depending on what you're doing. Right now I have this set up to drill the end of a board that you clamp in here, and by flipping this around I can set it up so we are drilling on the face of a board. And you can even remove this bottom portion and the clamp altogether, and then clamp this to a workpiece to drill dowel joints in the middle of a panel, which is really unique, and I like that feature. And the other thing is there are a series of different bushings in here. So depending on what size dowel you want to use, most dowels will come in either 1/4 inch or 5/16, 1/2 inch sizes. You can go ahead and use whichever bushing you want. For a lot of things, I'll leave all the bushings in place, but if you needed to drill in the middle of a thicker board, you can remove the bushings that you're not using and you can adjust it appropriately. And then some other little features that are just nice to have. There are some registration points here so you can help register parts, kind of keep your dowel holes aligned in roughly the same orientation, and you can use those for aligning parts as you drill them. So now, let's look at this drawer. We have a simple butt joint up here for the front to side connection that is doweled. And then on the back, I just have this back screwed in, and that allows me to cut that to a perfect fit and maybe even taper this back in a little bit so it slides in the drawer box nice and easy. So let's go ahead and head over to the table saw. We'll cut these parts to size and I'll show you how we dowel these together. So here at the table saw, I'm going to go ahead and cut the parts for this drawer. Now I've set the fence to rip this piece of cherry to width, and then we'll cross cut the length. And while I'm here, I'm also going to cut a groove for the drawer bottom. Once I have all the parts cut, we'll head back to the bench and dowel it together. All right, now that I have all these parts cut for this drawer, I'm going to first test fit everything, make sure that that bottom's not going to hold any of these joints apart after we get them cut, and it looks good. And now what I'm going to do is more of a peace of mind thing. I'm going to mark where everything is. So I'm going to mark the front here and the back here, as well as the sides. And then this is the key. I'm going to mark a line right where each joint is going to be. And this is going to help me as I'm drilling, make sure I'm drilling in the appropriate orientation, and I'm not going to put holes in the wrong places. So there we go. We'll set this off to the side now, and we'll go ahead and get the JointMaster set up. Now I mentioned before that if I'm using something like 1/2 inch material, I'll usually leave all these bushings in place. However, with 3/4 inch material, I do need the extra room in there. So we're going to remove the unnecessary bushings. I'm going to use the 5/16 for this 3/4 inch stock. So we will remove the 1/4 inch and the 3/8 inch bushing just to give us plenty of room. Okay. So there you can kind of see how those bushings look. We got 3/8, 1/4 inch, and then the 5/16 is still in here. Now we have to position this to center that bushing and the holes on the 3/4 inch stock. And to do that, Milescraft has these little spacers that are included with the JointMaster. And this one is sized for the 5/16 holes. And then we have two different measurements here. I can set it for 3/4 inch stock, which is this edge, or 5/8 inch stock on this edge. So I'm going to pop that into the bushing and then slide it down so it's flush with the bottom, with the 3/4 inch facing down because that's our stock size. And then I'm going to tighten the screws down and pop that spacer out. There we go. Now that is set up to drill holes centered on 3/4 inch stock. And then looking at our marks here, we can see that we need to drill holes in the ends of our side pieces. So you can see how our sides are going to slide in there. And what I'm going to do is, as we're doing this, I'm going to flip up those little stops just as reference points. There we go. And then we'll clamp this down. And we can drill our holes. So now I'm going to grab the drill bit here, and I've already put a stop collar on there. And the stop collar is going to set the depth of my bit. And we want to make sure that we are hitting at least half the length of this dowel. Usually a little bit more, it would be a little bit better, just to give a little bit of clearance for glue room. So what I will do is I'll grab that dowel and I will eyeball the center on it. And then I'll set the protrusion on that bit to be centered. And now I'll grab an Allen wrench, tighten that down, we're ready to drill our holes. I'm going to make sure when I put my parts in that I'm always putting the groove for the drawer bottom face down. That just keeps everything in the same orientation. And then I'm going to drill on that center hole there. That's going to keep it away from that drawer groove, and it's going to space it out enough for this 4-inch drawer. So there's the first hole. We'll flip our stops. The groove is still facing down. There we go. Okay, so now we can go ahead and flip this over into face drilling mode. And to do that, this is super simple. We're just going to remove this clamping mechanism from the bushing side, and we're going to put it on the opposite side. So just a couple screws. Okay. So now we are set up to hold parts in this orientation with the bushings on the face of the work. So you can see why this is a super versatile jig in my opinion, and it sure beats a lot of others in the market. So the thing here as well is that we want to make sure we're drilling on the right side. We don't want holes on the outside of our drawer face, or our drawer's just got a decorative feature. So I'm going to make sure that the groove for the bottom is still facing the bushings. We're going to clamp it in. And notice I didn't change the bushing at all because it should still be set up for that 3/4 inch. The one thing I am going to do, however, is I am going to reduce the protrusion of my bit. When I'm doing drawers with dowels, if you set this up to be perfectly 50-50 on both parts, a lot of times you'll poke through the front. So I always like to drop that stop down a bit so I'm not drilling as deep, and we'll check it. Okay, so now we can go ahead and drill these holes on the inside faces of the fronts and backs. Once again, because we use the center hole on the sides, we're going to use the center hole here. Now it's rinse and repeat. Now this is a simple matter of gluing up this drawer. Now there is a particular process I like to do with dowels. Generally it is applying glue to the end of the dowel and then driving that in the first part of the hole. And the one thing to be aware of with these dowels is as soon as you apply glue, they're going to start to swell a little bit. So don't take your sweet time. You do want to get them in the hole as soon as you get glue on there. Okay, and then any of that squeeze out that's on the bottom, I'll just brush up the dowel a little bit. We're probably going to put a little bit more glue on the mating part here. And here I will squeeze it inside of the hole. And I like this little glue mate glue bottle because I can just reach that little tip down in there and kind of spin it around and glue up that hole. And then it's just a matter of pushing that joint together, just like that. And if you do this right, you're not going to get a whole lot of squeeze out, which is really nice. I don't like cleaning up squeeze out in the inside of drawers. There you go. Okay, now the real key here is not to forget this back. So there we go. That's a quick and easy way to make drawers. Now, one thing I am going to point out about making a drawer in this style is where we have this joint of the front and the back, that groove for the bottom is going to be visible. And for a shop project like the sawtill, I don't really care if I see that. That's fine. But if this was a higher end furniture piece, I might want to plug that. And this is an end grain surface here. So cutting an end grain plug and filling that in, it's going to blend right in. So building drawers like this is just one good example on how you can use a versatile jig like the JointMaster to make your projects and shop time a little bit easier. So to find more info about the JointMaster and Milescraft's other great products, visit milescraft.com and check them out. Thanks for watching.